is the charm.
So save the
Look,
crazy.
the live button went on. It's yellow. Does that mean we're live?
Yep, we're live.
Oh.
Hey.
I wanted to make sure we got it. So.
Okay.
Okay, so Shadell, we need to continue talking about the camping as soon as we're finished. So don't forget, because we need to talk about that.
All right.
Okay, so Tangi from Tangi the Caver's Wife and Shadell from Delectable Mountains.
Hello.
They are both with me, and we will put links below so that you guys can go and check them out after this. So this is the live broadcast, and that's right. This time I need to make sure that I can see the comments on the side. Okay,
well, this is on your channel right now. People are watching it.
Uh-huh. Right?
I've never done that before.
It should be fun, but I've never been able to figure out how to allow people to say things to me while we're doing it. And it's so much more fun if they can ask questions.
Okay.
So today the topic is raising boys in a homeschool setting in a way that they don't kind of lose their masculine side, if they've got a lot of sisters, if they're spending a lot of time with daddy or with mommy instead of daddy, if daddy's working full-time. So Shadell, I wanted to start with you because the whole reason I thought of this was that as we were finishing our Braid Girl segment, you were talking about how one of the most important topics you could think to share is about how you're going to transition your homeschooling from yourself to your husband as your son ages. And so let's start with you, Shadell. And Tangi, you know, you're the other one with the boy, so I'm just kind of sit here and watch the magic. So go ahead, Shadell.
Well, it wasn't necessarily our idea. John Adams, he, I guess, homeschooled his son, John Quincy Adams, and he took over the schooling from his wife when his son was about 12 or so, maybe a bit younger. And that just kind of made sense to me. There's a pastor that's doing that as well. His name's Vodi Bachman, and he took over the homeschooling of his son. You know Vodi, right? Yeah.
Yes, he was actually the one that I was telling Julianne about when we started talking about this. Because I didn't know about y'all's conversation, and I'm sorry, I'm like totally going off on a tangent here. But yeah, Julianne, he was the one that I was telling you about that said that, you go ahead, girl, and then I will tell you what I told her.
Yeah. He took over homeschooling his son or sons when they were about 12, 14 years old, and I was listening to him, and he was just kind of mentioning that in a sermon, and that made so much sense because I can't teach my son how to be a man. My mom was a single mom, and I grew up in a community where there was a lot of single moms, and none of those women knew how to raise a man. You know, all they were doing was taking their frustrations out from being a single mom onto their son, and they were raising very frustrated young men. And that's not what we want to accomplish. We're trying to give our kids all the advantages possible that we didn't have. And so we had to look at everything, you know, everything that our parents did wrong and everything they did right, and what can we do different. And that was a big, like raising men in today's society seems like it's not a priority, and for us it's a priority. So what can we do different? And the thing that that no one does is, like, you know, dads taking charge, whether it's a little boy or a little girl. You don't see dads really involved much with their kids' education, whether they're public school or private school or homeschool, doesn't matter. So my husband's going to take over for our son. We got 2 boys, one's 4 and one's a year old. He's a dragon. He keeps us up all night long. But my husband's going to take over, and we'll see how it goes. It's kind of like an experiment for us, but for Vodi Bachman, it was success. For John Adams and his son, John Quincy Adams, it was success. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah, and what I was telling Julianne, I don't even know how we got on this subject.
I don't know.
But we were talking about it, and I told her about Vodi, and I said that in one of his sermons he was talking about how whenever he would go to these homeschool conventions that he would be a guest speaker at, he said he was very disturbed by the amount of effeminate young men. And it's because they spend all day with mom, and there's no interaction with dad. There's no son, come out here and let's kill something and start fires and, you know, build things. It's all being right there with mom. And so yeah, and then she said, oh, you got to talk to Shadell because we had a conversation very similar. So I was really stoked when I heard you bring up his name. That's pretty cool.
Oh, cool. There's a quote. I don't know who said it. So, quoted by someone, where when we're educating our kids, we're so apt to put books in our boys' hands, but we forget to put tools there.
Mm.
And my husband, his dad, ignored him and didn't teach him how to do anything. And so when my husband and I got married, I had to teach him the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. I was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I knew is because my stepdad, he saw that I was interested, and my brother wasn't, you know, and he's like, he thought that was wrong, but we weren't his kids, so he didn't want to try to fix it, so he just went with it, and he's like, all right, so the little girl wants to learn how to use a solder and how to use all these tools, so I'll teach her. And then, you know, and then I got frustrated with my husband because he didn't know, but it's not his fault, it was his dad's fault, 'cause his dad knew how to do all that stuff. I never taught him.
Well, can I say something here? Because you guys are really hitting a nerve with me. I got called to be a Boy Scout leader in our congregation. Our congregation is actually involved in the scouting program, and I got called to the 9-year-olds, I believe. And these were little boys who were 9 years old, and I was tasked to teach them how to hold a hammer. And I thought that I was going in to teach them all these really cool projects because I had all these amazing things that I could teach them how to do. And what I was tasked with was to teach them how to build this kit that was a bird house. And the boys didn't know how to hold a hammer. They didn't have a good enough grasp with their hand that when they actually hit something with the hammer, that hammer connected. And I stayed with this for a couple weeks, and in the end I got so frustrated because I'm like, I cannot replace a father. I cannot give these boys the basic skills of being able to go out and look at their environment and find solutions to the things that they want to do with their lives. They don't care about a birdhouse. Why are they not out building tree houses? Why are they not out digging holes in the lawn to really tick their dad off, but to create something horrible and amazing all at the same time? And I couldn't handle that. I felt like the children were I felt like the overabundance of activities and the lack of childish playtime as a child, as a boy, is really lacking in our environment. I feel like children will search out these skills on their own if they have enough free time and enough downtime and enough family time working on projects. I've never taught my kids how to hold a hammer. And they've built all sorts of fun, amazing things. But I remember as a child, a lot of the boys that I knew were still doing these really cool things, and I wanted to hang out with the boys because they had these skills, but I don't really see it in the young men today. What do you guys think is the absence there that 30 years ago we were still skipping ropes and we were still playing No Bears Are Out tonight, games at night, and basketball and things like that? What has transitioned so that when you drive through a neighborhood, you don't see kids playing? You know, it doesn't matter what time of day or night it is, you don't see children out on the sidewalk playing hopscotch. Where are the children?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it. Go ahead. I was going to say that I think, well, we have a lot more distractions now than we used to. And, you know, we have more technology, and it has replaced, well, I think technology coupled with the fear of our children being out of our sight, both go hand in hand with why the kids aren't riding bikes up and down the streets anymore. Because I know for my personal self, for my kids, I don't want them out of my sight. There are predators that live not far from here, and you know,
like animal predators or people predators?
No, people predators.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are registered sex offenders.
We've got both. We've got mountain lions and people predators.
No, we're not that rural. I wish. But yeah, so I think that's part of it. But also the like what you were saying, just the absence of someone being in the home to say, you know, hey, go, you know, what I tell my kids is go use your imagination, go play. And but dads, they tend to. It seems like they're. Sorry, my dog is chewing on my tripod. But dads, they tend to have not as much fear, maybe is the right way to say it, for their kids. So they tend to be the adventure seekers and the don't worry about mom, let's do this,
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason. This is the culprit.
He's so cute.
I 100% agree. When my husband takes the kids out, they come back filthy dirty, or they fell in a creek, or they're bloody, and I'm just like, if they were with me, that would never happen.
Right.
Because I'm helicopter mom, and I'm just like, and I keep them safe. And I think the more kids hang out with their dad, they're more likely to have more adventures and to get themselves dirty and to play like kids. Moms naturally don't want their kids to get hurt because we have to deal with it. We have to look at the blood. We have to take them to the doctor and do all the nasty stuff. And dads are like, I'm just here to make sure that they can enjoy an adventure. But as far as stranger danger and predators, kids that spend all day inside playing video games, watching TV, they have no idea how to protect themselves in case they do come across a stranger. And stranger danger, I think, especially if you live in a city, is one of the main reasons why parents are afraid to let their kids explore and adventure. And my daughter, she walked home yesterday from my husband's job back home, and the whole time I was like having hives on my back. And my husband, he called me from work. He's like, "Yeah, just let her walk. She'll be home in a few minutes." And she came to the door, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I met this one person. He was so strange looking, so I just crossed the street." And she's so aware because we don't helicopter over her, and we let her, talk with people and strangers. And so she knows, she's got a good instinct on who people are. But if you're spending all your time on a video game or watching television, you'll have no idea how to interact with strangers, how to tell a good person from a bad person. Those are skills that you only get from actually doing and being. I've got to tell this story. It's so funny. I was when I was pregnant with Josiah, I was in the hospital with some complications, and so I had to leave Ivana and Judah in the waiting room, and because my husband had to be back there with me. And this old couple came in, and they both reeked of alcohol, and they were yelling at each other and swearing at each other. And Ivana, she says to them, "Can you please not use that language in front of my brother?" And the old lady, she goes, we're not swearing," and she went like this to her. And for her to be able to tell off two older people, she has to be out there. She has to, know how to deal with people, and that's why I hate when people are like, "Oh, you homeschooled? They're not socialized."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she's very socialized.
Well, let me ask a question then. Getting because I know this is where I fall short, and where I'm trying really hard to. I feel like our husbands, were not given enough responsibility and enough freedom to really develop into precocious doers. I think a lot of men lacked in that category, that they, with the public schooling and my husband, for instance, being a latchkey child where he didn't have supervision when he was home. Now as an adult, he really struggles with being able to look around himself and own his environment and own his home, rather than kind of thinking that somebody else will come and take over and fix things, or that somebody else will come and tell him what to do. And it's not that he doesn't have a desire to be this big, masculine, robust guy that goes out and just does stuff. It's that because he was raised in a way where he was just kind of told, don't touch, don't get up unless you have permission, don't go to the bathroom unless you have permission, don't look this way because you're supposed to be looking this way. He now struggles with being able to take over in situations, and as us being the homebodies that kind of rule the roost as far as like, this is my home, I'm doing the laundry, I'm doing the dishes, I'm doing the homeschooling, I think there can be, we ourselves can exacerbate the situation to where we're not treating our husbands as men, and thus they have a hard time teaching the sons to be men, because in their own home they haven't learned the skills to be the breadwinner and the provider and the person who thinks through these things. And so I'm wondering, as wives, what can we do to not treat them as little boys, which is kind of what society treats men as now, is little boys instead of as the big protector that they are. And it's not that they can't do it, it's just that they've been put in this little box for so much of their life. I know that while my husband was home, it was a real eye-opener to him that that was how his brain worked. He could go to work and he could have a job and work really, really hard and bring home the bacon. But when it came to coming home and having to look around himself and instead of just being the breadwinner, instead to be the father and the husband that was there all the time and needed to self-regulate, I found it was really hard not to be really bossy. And so as wives, how do we do that? How do we stop treating them as little boys and facilitate, well, not even facilitate, because maybe that's a little manipulative. How do we react to them as wives? And guys, those of you who are watching, if you have comments, make sure to pop in if you have suggestions for this. How as wives do we not treat our husbands as little boys?
When we lived in North Carolina, our house, anytime something broke, I fixed it.
Yeah.
You know, because I knew how it was supposed to be fixed. I had a few skills when it comes to carpentry and electricity and whatnot and electric work, so I just fixed it. I didn't even bother asking him. And I realized that I was emasculating my husband by doing that. And so for me, I have to accept things not being done perfectly. And then sometimes just say, I don't know, honey. You know, when something's broken and he asks me, do you know how to fix this? I go, I don't know, honey. And he'll go on YouTube and look through books and just really let him figure it out on his own. If it doesn't get fixed perfectly, that's fine. And I've learned I have to do the same thing with my son. He's 4 and he wants so bad to be a little man, and he'll want to carry groceries in, and I can get it done so much faster. And the same way with my husband, I can fix something so much better. But faster and better isn't always what's best. Sometimes we have to let it be done imperfectly and let him struggle with a 20-pound bag of potatoes, and just let him feel that, so that when he's older, he'll be strong and he'll know that he can do things. And with my husband, the more I just accept things not being perfect, the better he becomes at doing these things, and the more time I have to do other things around the house and get to that quilt that's been sitting on my sewing table for a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me personally, it isn't that he's not as good at it because he's a man. It's just because he's never done it before. And usually within about 2 tries, he's better at it than me. If I will get my little hands off of it and stop telling him how to do it, like you said, when we first started out, if there was something that he didn't know how to do, I would sit there and like hover and tell him exactly how to do it. And it wasn't that he couldn't do it. It was just that I had been hovering so much that I had never just backed off and said, well, maybe he can do it better. And there is so much around our house where he can't lift things right now, but there's so many other things. When he took over the cooking, he was better at the cooking than me. With the watering that he could do, as long as I wasn't out there to help him and increase his frustration level, he did a better job than me. And so I think it takes the count of 1, 2, 3 for the men to just snap into it and be like, I am this powerful beast, and I am taking care of everything, and she doesn't have to ask me anything. And but Tangi, I don't know your husband, and I know that you said that. Did you say he's no? Maybe it was Amanda that said her husband was a clean freak, but I don't. Does your husband? Does your husband have a different personality? Is he already kind of the go-getter, masculine man that just takes over and runs with things?
He is. My husband is an outdoorsman, and he's a caver by profession and by hobby, and he loves to camp. He loves survival things. He likes all that kind of stuff. But I guess the part where here's the thing. my personality is I am not naggy. I ask one time. If it doesn't get done, then I do it myself. That's just how I am. And I think it was a lot because I was raised that way. If you can do it, if you are capable of doing something and you see it needs to be done, do it. Don't wait to be asked. Just do it. So I don't ask my husband to do a lot of things. So as far as facilitating his manliness, I don't really do that. But he notices because he's more aware of things around the house that you would, I guess, consider the man job, like, you know, changing out the floodlights or, you know, fixing something. He's more aware of those things than I am. But I think one thing that, especially since I am home now, because I don't know if Shadell knows or not, but I actually worked full-time and then came home to homeschool my kids. We took them out of public school. So now that I'm home, our situation looks like this. When my husband comes home, his job is over. He's done for the day. But Mama's job never ends. So like there's no cutoff time. So when it comes to like their education and all those things, that all falls on me because I'm home. You see what I'm saying? So like for me, that's where how can I get him to do more with the education side. Now he is a history buff. That's like his favorite thing. So with history, he likes, especially with our soon to be 14-year-old, he likes to give her assignments and he actually, my son was learning about Lewis and Clark because my husband said he needs to learn about Lewis and Clark. So really, I mean that's. But as far as the other things, yeah, he's more of a go-getter, and but I know that my fault. One of my things that I lack on is that I don't praise him for things because you know my thing was, you know, growing up, I'm not going to congratulate you for doing something that you're supposed to do. And that's kind of how we are with our kids, right? You know,
right.
Like, I'm not gonna congratulate you for showing up because that's what you're supposed to do. But it is nice to hear those things. I like to hear that I'm appreciated, that he notices the little things that I do. You know, keep the home fires burning and all that stuff. So I need to be better about doing that for him as well. So yeah.
Well, I think that's really, really true, and I think we might have a different dynamic, all of us, because we homeschool. We don't all have a huge amount of money. It's not like we can hire a lot of things out, and so I think that's kind of a blessing at the same time, because as a married couple, the more you can pull together and balance each other out in the absence of money and hiring other people to do the things that you need to have done. At least in my marriage, as our marriage has matured, we've both kind of equally started to do things together and appreciated each other more and kind of pulled on each other less and tried to be sensitive to each other's needs. And I think, I don't know, I feel like for us, we're kind of a new generation. There's the technology pulls, there's the lack of respect to men that is kind of just happening, that's systemic, and we homeschool. And so I feel kind of like we're a new generation of homeschooling moms, and it's interesting trying to work it all out and figure out what is the most important thing, because it's true. If you have a husband that's out working really hard, it's not like when he comes home you want to be dumping on him and saying, you need to be doing all these skills and you need to be teaching our son how to do them. Do it now. And balancing that with the appreciation side of you're the breadwinner and I love you, and this is thanks for supporting our family. And so I don't know where else to take that, because as moms, it's not like we can do the fathering for our men. I think the only thing we can really do is support our men in their fathering. And this is definitely something that I feel is like up in the air rather than something that's established. I have mothering down. But
yeah, we do this all day, every day. The other day, my husband and we were talking about this, and I believe that the core to society is family. And if families are suffering, then society will show that. And my husband was not made to make money. That's not why God made him. It's not why he was fashioned together. He wasn't made to produce money. He was made to be part of a family. And he makes money to help support a family. So when he comes home from work and he's like, I put 100% into work and I got nothing left for the family, something's out of whack. And he maybe needs to find a new job, or he needs to like refocus how much energy he's putting into work when he's at work. And I love the fact that where he works, his boss, his coworkers, all of them know he's in this for his family. All the choices he makes it for his family. Does he like go there and like, okay, let me make sure I'm only moving at 85% capacity so that I've got, you know, some percentage left when I come home? That's not the case. He puts his heart and soul into his job, but he remembers, and in the back of his mind he knows, I do this for my family. And when I come home, if I've got nothing left for my family, then I'm doing the wrong thing. And I was guilty of when my husband came home being one of those moms where it's like, oh, good, the help is here. You can do this, you can do that. I'm going to go take a bath because I'm exhausted. I'm finally going to go pee because I haven't peed all day. And I can be guilty of that, and I try not to. But when during the week when he comes home from work and then the weekend are two different things. The weekend isn't his time off. It's our time to do things together and to be a tag team. And sometimes it's very much like WWF wrestling where you like tag your partner and now you're in the ring and now I'm going to hang on the sidelines. And sometimes he'll just come to me and be like, go talk to that girl because I can't handle her. I don't want him anymore. And we help each other out. But he was not made to make money. He was made to be a father. He was made to be a husband. And we were made to build up this family so that when our kids go out into society, it's not a wreck, you know, not this train wreck that we see going on. And I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, like in the hood, straight up in the hood. And it was hard for my mom. She wanted to be a helicopter mom, but she couldn't because she worked 3 jobs. And my brother and I would be home by ourselves. And we did some of the most, oh man, if my kids ever did half the stuff that my brother and I did, I think I'd have a heart attack. But that did teach my well, I don't know if it taught my brother anything, but it taught me a lot of self-sufficient skills. Not the self-sufficient skills when we're talking about homesteading, but I'm talking about just like primal survival skills. How to manipulate people, how to get what you needed. It was I'm not saying that these are good things that I knew how to do, but I was the queen of manipulation. By the time I was 14, I could get a person to do anything I wanted them to because I had to survive. There were days where my mom couldn't afford groceries, and I knew how to manipulate a neighbor or how to get what I needed from. And my mom, she'd have these different boyfriends, and she would use me to manipulate them to get what we needed as a family. And it was pretty sick. And I catch myself sometimes doing that to my husband, and I have to slap myself back into reality that was my reality as a kid. This is not my husband loves me and he loves his children, and I don't live in that world anymore. And that's some of the struggles that I have. And I want to step in too much when it comes to our sons because I feel sometimes I know it's best. But like what you were saying before, sometimes they need to go to the park and get bloodied and get dirty and get nasty and just hang out with dad and let dad kind of do things more relaxed.
Yeah, I think I kind of struggle in that way too. I find, and I think a lot of it is because we as mothers we're nurturers. And we want our babies to be okay. We want them to be happy. We don't want them to be scared. We don't want them to be hurt physically. And, you know, there's been a lot of times where I feel like my husband's being too hard. He's being too hard on them. And the mama bear in me just wants to get between him and the kids and be like, that's enough, you know. But I think it's stuff like that is what causes effeminate men. Mm-hmm. Our boys need the hard lessons. They need to feel hard consequences. And our daughters do too, not just our boys. But yeah, that is something that I'm very well aware that I do, and I am getting better since I am aware of it. Like just trying to, even if I have to leave the room you know, just because my husband loves my children, he would never do anything to cause harm. But you know, it's still hard. It's still hard for a mama's heart to, you know, to see them getting punished or fussed at. You know, when I'm like, I would much rather be the one to do it.
Step aside and let me do this.
But I will. Here's a story that I wanted to share. My parents came. They lived north of us, and they were moving south, and they brought some furniture for us because they were downsizing. And my dad enlisted the help of my 10-year-old son to help him carry in a dresser, a heavy dresser.
Oh.
My dad had one end, and my son got the other. And I'm like dying inside, going, he can't lift that. He's gonna break his face, or you know, something. And my son was really, really struggling, and I wanted so bad to step in and let him get it, but my father, that's my papa, okay, and he raised us from the very beginning that we trust him. He wants us to trust him. So I backed off. I let him do it, and my son carried in the other end of that dresser up steps into the house. And of course, like, nobody was more shocked than me, because I'm like, what? I can't believe he did that. And of course, but like I said, you know, it hurt him. It was cutting into his fingers, and it was very heavy. But he carried in a dresser. He carried in a dresser. Do you know how many times I have brought that up? I'm like, don't tell me you can't get that garbage bag out of that trash. That's how you carry a dresser, right? I mean, and I think, and that also gave my son confidence. I did that. I carried a heavy dresser, and so it was painful to watch. It was painful for him to do, but it proved something to him and to me. I'm not allowing, by me being the hovering mom, and being so worried about him being hurt or whatever, he's not reaching his potential. There's so many more things that he can do that I might be holding him back from. And it took a big man to show me that. And I thank my dad for that. I thank him for, he may not watch this, but you know, that was just a very cool thing, because I see my son differently now, and he sees himself differently.
Yeah.
And it took a man to do that.
That's awesome. On the flip side to that, I got to see what I look like when I hover over my son too much. We took my mom camping, and there's this little gravel hill, and Ivana and Judah wanted to run down this hill. So Ivana ran down it, no problem, because she's older and has long legs. And so Judah went to go run down the hill. And my mom grabbed him by the hand and was like, be careful, be careful, be careful. And all I could see in my head is my son, 33 years old. I can't get friends going, be careful, be careful. So I was like, Mom, just let him fall. Just let him fall if he wants to. And I know that's what I look like constantly. Be careful, be careful. And that's not what we want to do to our boys at all. We want them to carry heavy dressers into the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very true.
I agree. Well, I think this was really helpful for me. It helps me to kind of solidify that whatever it is we think we're doing when it comes to our families and our husband, the only thing we can really control is how we react. We can't control whether or not our sons become good men. We can't control whether or not our husbands are involved with our kids, but what we can do, I think, is to take real responsibility for the ways that we prevent that from happening, and the ways that we can nurture our relationship with these people individually, like you said, Cheryl, without being manipulative, without like trying to micromanage things and make things work around the way that we think they should. But something I learned that was really important for my mom, because she felt like she used to be really codependent, is that she said, I have my relationship with you. You have your own relationship with your father. I'm not going to be a message center. I'm not going to fix things for you. You have your relationship with your father, and you have your relationship with me, and I have my own relationship with your father, and thus they are straight lines of communication rather than manipulative byways that go around and through people where I am the Grand Master Pumbaa. And so listening to you guys talk, it helps really cement in me that the more I can be straightforward with my husband about things that I think should be happening, and the more I can counsel with him, about how we change our family dynamic, the more open we are about that communication, the better people we as moms will be, because we won't be manipulating, we won't be judging. Instead, we can treat our husbands as adults, have the open conversations, and instead of being the nagging, because I can so be that, and I think it's so easy as a woman to do that, just because our brains work different than our husbands. And I think we can have a real tendency to be that control freak, and that doesn't benefit a home, and it doesn't treat your husband as an adult. It treats him as the little boy that you're trying to prevent your little boy from being. And it's not that that's what our husbands are, it's just that's how we treat them. So any last thoughts before we close down?
The example we're setting for our daughters, too.
Yeah.
We don't want them to grow up and treat their men that way.
Yeah. I agree. I think that we are part of our family and not the end-all, be-all, last word on everything. And I think it's so easy when you're a stay-at-home mom and a homeschooling mom, and you're so busy to take that role and to take both roles and to run with them, instead of we get so busy we don't slow down and look around and remember there's other people in the family besides us. We just want everybody to be safe, and we want everybody to be happy. We want everybody to be the best they can ever be in anything, and so we're just going to put everybody in their spot, and they better stay there.
Right.
You know? So, anything else? Anybody want to share anything else? I think we're at about, what are we at, about 45 minutes now? We're at about half an hour. Anything else we want to add? Nothing? Okay, I think this was perfect, and I'm going to go back and rewatch this as a little gospel preaching to myself as the caught-up mama. So, well, I love you girls. Yes?
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, I was trying to think, you know, on an end note, I think it would be good advice to remind wives and mamas out there to trust your men.
Amen.
Trust your men. That's
Amen.
it. Trust.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, I love you girls, and after I turn this off, stay on, because I want to talk to you. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments. I try to do the live broadcasts every Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, and that's because the broadcast seems to go a lot better than if I pre-record it. When I did my show with Shadell, it was horrible because we had this huge lag, like 5-minute lag. It was so hard to get it edited. So I love this, and this back and forth has been really fun. So if you guys have any requests about who I should have come on Braid Girls and what questions we should ask, make sure to let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Let's see if I can turn it off.